My name is LaToya Cantrell. I serve as a District B council member for the City of New Orleans. I have been in New Orleans for 25 years, came here for college, attended Xavier University and stayed. Got very immersed in public education reform in the late 90s, mid to late 90s, working for the Greater New Orleans Education Foundation, which was founded by the business community of the city to develop a 5-year strategic plan for New Orleans public schools. Well, over the past 10 years, we have seen many reform efforts come in that post-Katrina environment. As it relates to the governance structure, we went from a unified school district to a completely decentralized system. Now serving more children in public ed through charter schools in the city of New Orleans when we only had, a handful in the pre-Katrina environment. The expansion of early childhood in regards to pre-K has, we've seen a tremendous growth as well in the post-Katrina environment. In regards to going back to the decentralization of schools, that also came with the majority of the schools, particularly those that were low performing pre-Katrina, were taken over by the state in 2005. So the governance structure changed, as well as people in the classroom. There was a pretty much kind of like a high exodus of educators in that immediate post-disaster, what do you call it? Yeah, right in the post-disaster environment. Immediately after, we saw the systems kind of fall. We saw the teachers, the educators across the board in terms of leadership, pre-Katrina change in that environment where most, if not all, were laid off or fired. And then we saw a tremendous wave of new leaders emerging through the Teach for America effort, in which the state of Louisiana, the city of New Orleans particularly, received a large portion of TFA educators wanting to, they saw New Orleans as a petri dish and wanted to come and experiment with urban education. And in the post-Katrina environment, we've seen a lot of growth, in that, but we've also seen disparities in that growth. Well, several things that I think would not have occurred due to Hurricane Katrina, and that is one is the facilities. We've seen billions of dollars of infrastructure improvements in the post-Katrina environment, and I don't think New Orleans would have ever seen that, nor do I believe New Orleans will ever see it again. So it was a horrible opportunity that ridded this city of dilapidated, substandard, low-quality environments for teaching and learning, and now really serve this city and our children and our families in a very significant and unique way that just didn't exist before. At first glance, you would think that it's all working, like that there are no disparities that exist. And there are disparities that exist. It really tends to align with partnerships that different charter management organizations may be able to form, and those partnerships are sometimes unique to an individual school or a system of schools. And so the resources in terms of dollars are not across the board, and a lot of that tends to be aligned with partnerships that the schools establish on their own. The high transportation cost is something also that you don't see at first glance. You don't realize that we are a city that went from seeing $6 million a year spent on transporting kids to public schools to 33.5 million. And that's a huge high expenditure. We see that expenditure is placed primarily at the school site level. There are independent contracts that are associated with these transportation companies and the charter management organization, or if it's Orleans Parish School Board or Recovery School District, but the burden tends to fall mostly on the schools themselves. And our schools are spending anywhere from $284,000 to $425,000 plus on school buses to transport their kids to and from school. So understanding the true cost of what choice means, and it's not taking a kind of a dig at choice, but choice does have a cost. And it will be good to understand really what that cost is and the impacts of that cost as it relates to different schools, because it is different. Not all are the same. We have majority of our student populations traveling, all over the city. You have the largest portion of students in eastern New Orleans that are traveling outside of eastern New Orleans, that are going across the river, to the West Bank. And there are high quality performing schools in the East. So again, it kind of speaks to, the choice and the cost, how much time kids are spending traveling to and from school, the lack of the families' ability to have their kids participate in after-school programs. That's a challenge. Those are things you really don't see at first glance, but things that we really have to think about as we are still experimenting, as it relates to public education in an urban environment where disparities continue to exist. And particularly our young people in this post-Katrina environment that have been to multiple schools in a short period of time. And that's another thing you don't see. You go into a building and you may think that child has been there their whole educational tenure, when the child has actually gone to 4 or 5 different schools. So it's this perception, I think, that choice also kind of provides. And if you're not happy, then you just get up and you go to another school. But there's something, though, about staying the course so that the child actually benefits from the educational experience that's actually being provided. And I think we're in this world of instant gratification. And because of that, wanting what you want, that instant impact, I think sometimes parents tend to pull their kids out sooner than they should, and really preventing the kid from just allowing themselves to grow and develop in the environment that they were initially placed. So, it's not a cookie cutter approach, and not all kids are in that situation, but these are things that are a reality in our post-Katrina environment as it relates to public education. I hope that within the next 10 years we continue to see growth and development academically. I also hope that we really kind of zero in more on life skills within public schools. I think that is a deficit. I would like to see us focusing even more on behavioral health components and social behavior, as well as speech. I think it's very important. Building self-esteem and confidence in our young people. In New Orleans particularly, I think it associates very highly with violent crime. And I think our kids have to feel that they can do it, can reach their fullest potential, and I do believe that begins with what's inside and how they feel about themselves. And so that nurturing, that small child into a young adult is a priority, and I hope to see a continued effort focusing on the whole child. And I think that we're on the path towards that, but we just need more kids that are impacted by it. And I think we're moving in the right direction. But in 10 years from now, we would love to see more growth, love to see more children graduating, of course, from high school, attending college and or technical schools, getting their certifications in trades. And I think the landscape is great in New Orleans for that. And I would just like to see healthy kids, you know, being raised in healthy families, and seeing an environment to where we really support parents as well. And it's not just, you know, a parent working with their kid with their homework, but literally supporting a parent, because it's hard. And there's no book, you know, to that. And I don't buy into the economic argument that it's harder for folks with lower income. I think it's harder for all of us, and I think we need to turn the map around a little bit and how we talk about that, and provide all of our parents with the support systems that they need, even as it relates to mental health. And that's probably the largest component I think that we're missing, the mental health component for our children, particularly in this post-Katrina environment, but also their families. And we're seeing a lot of violence around that. And just came off a bad, terrible tragedy, you know, over the past week, where one of our mothers killed her 2 children and killed herself, and directly related to mental health. And so if we don't take care of the adults can't take care of the children, and particularly the parents.